This is the Ink Pray Love podcast. We talk all things health, wealth, and community connection. Let's go. Welcome to the Ink Pray Love podcast. Today we have Helle Weston, the co-founder of Owaken Breathwork, my close friend, my cosmic soul sister. She is magnetic, she is mystical, she's magical, she's my homie. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so glad to be here.
It is a pleasure. Thank you for having me in your beautiful home. And today coming to share your beautiful knowledge on intuition and intuitive intelligence. Where do we start from here?
Where do we start in the great void? Well, I guess I do want to start there, actually, all jokes aside, with just acknowledging the relationship that we each have with the unknown and the discomfort that it can bring up. I think even going into this conversation, and it's a recurring theme in my life when I'm preparing for something important, a lot of people take the approach of planning and going really into the details to make sure that they do a good job or can deliver and create certainty. And I think that through these experiences, I am living the message that I want to share, which is that there is another way, and it's also okay. It is safe. It is powerful beyond what most people understand to live more in the moment and trust that there is an intelligence that is beyond your logical linear mind that will actually guide you oftentimes to do far more and to access deeper truths than you could if you were in that really detailed preparation mode.
This is huge because so many of us get caught in anxiety and also control. What are other ways people mistrust the unknown and get caught in those ways? And then how do we actually battle that? Or not battle, sorry. There you go.
Subconscious.
There's the control right there.
Right,
yeah.
The battle, yeah.
How do we let things unfold for the best?
Well, I think what you've just touched on there is really important for people to understand. When I realized how much I was grasping for control in my own life, it was extremely uncomfortable, and it's not something that I would recommend anybody just skip over. Being in control is one of the ways that we try to stay safe. And ultimately, everything that we do that is coming from fear is coming from a place of trying to survive and trying to stay safe. And so when we live our lives in a state of control, when we don't trust the present moment, when we don't trust ourselves to figure it out, without having certainty or answers from some external source, it's because we are trying to stay safe. So I think looking at where in your life you tend to try to grip and control things and where that takes you into a state of fear rather than a state of trust and love is helpful. And it could be in anything. For example, for me, when I was growing up and all the way into my 20s, I noticed that my programming around needing to look a certain way and be pretty, be beautiful, be loved for the external shell was running my life in a very big way. And I thought that if I could control how I was physically presenting myself to the world, then I could control how much love I received, and therefore I could control my sense of safety. That's one example.
And before you go on to the next, I know exactly what you mean. Why they got so many tattoos. At the start of it was I wanted to control my image, of course, so I wouldn't be bullied or I wouldn't be look less than. And so I was like, I'm going to be cool to get this much tattoos. And that was like a defense mechanism at the start, armor, and then after a while, I got so sure of myself, and I don't even see myself with tattoos anymore. It doesn't even click for me. I forget actually that. And I got tattoos because I love art. It came from a more grounded space.
And that's from like love, right? Rather than fear and control. Yeah, that's huge. Lucas, my partner, for everyone watching, has expressed the same.
Yeah.
The tattoo thing has been a form of control. And there's other ways that people do it. For anyone who's on a personal development path, I think a common one is when we start to learn ways of bettering ourselves, we then project that onto everyone else and create these standards and expectations like, this is how you should live too. Now that I know better, you should apply all of this great wisdom that I have. And we can trick ourselves into thinking that that's coming from a place of love and divine flow or whatever it is. Like, okay, well, I've tapped into this higher state of consciousness, and so everyone should now listen to me. And actually, it's not that at all. It's coming from control and fear. And so as the journey has progressed for me, at least, I've found that a lot of the things that I used to think were high and holy, I'm now like, oh, that was really me living from a really disconnected, confused space.
Yeah.
And the more that I drop into my intuition and empathy and like true compassion and presence with people, the less I actually want to change them.
Yeah.
So those are some starting nuggets.
That's gold, because the less I want to change people, the happier I am. I feel like it's just like I'm content with me. I'm happy with me, and I feel like that energy is way more coherent and smooth and sweet and productive.
Yeah.
Than like that energy doesn't do so well.
Exactly. And another thing that's really helpful, I mean, a lot of people will ask me, how do I tell the difference between my mind and ideas that I randomly get versus my intuition? And I see control showing up again and again and relying on our 5 senses to dictate our experience and our next steps. So we rely on what we can see, we rely on what we hear, we rely on physical feelings or say visual indications of so what's going on with our bodies, and going, oh, well, they said that this means this and therefore that must be true. Each of us also have subtle senses, and when you start to tune more into your inner world, you can connect into your subtle senses, which is your intuitive language in a way, to guide your reality. And that means you're not just looking for evidence in the external, you're starting to build a relationship with things that you can see in your mind's eye, the things that you can hear through your subtle level of thought or hearing perception. You're starting to pay attention to the subtleties of a feeling that you get that just tells you that something is the right thing to do or something isn't serving you. And from there, life expands into, I guess, a whole different dimension, because you're no longer limited by these 5 senses to feel in control or to feel safe. You start to recognize that, okay, there's a whole other way that I'm relating to life itself. And by following that and trusting that, I am rewarded, I'm guided, things flow for me in a whole way that I didn't have access to before. So
I really like this because I've been training in this recently, as I've been telling you with my teacher, Therese Terney. Shout out to Therese. Was there's an inner world inside of me that I can draw information from, as what you're saying. And so us developing a connection to our inner world and really developing it, making more of a relationship to our inner world, then allows us to have more agency in the outer world. We can then actually control and like sort of manipulate the world around us, because we are calling the shots rather than letting it happen to us. And I like that, because my manifestation powers start to really like amp up. Mm-hmm. And this is like that yogi sciences shit that I love, that I'm like, cool, I'm going to start to actually then bring in opportunities and have them come and serve me rather than being at the whim of all that's happening around me. What are some of the ways, I know that you've talked about similar practices, what are some of the ways that we can deepen our connection to our inner world and our intuition?
I love that you just described that, and something I want to pluck out of what you shared and highlight, following what we were just speaking about, is control actually isn't a bad thing. So I really want to land that point. It's okay to want to feel in control in your life and to feel like you are the director of your creation, which is what I hear you speaking about there. And it's doing it with intention and allowing it to also expand what is possible for you, rather than looking for data to create more of a cage or a box that is like, okay, this is my familiar reality and I don't want to go outside of it. So I think one thing that everyone can benefit from is living with an open mind and a beginner's mind, acknowledging that you don't know everything and there's so much to discover just by being curious. It's one of the things that people comment about me all the time, and I'm grateful for those reflections. You know, when you get someone going, one of the things that stands out about you is, and you're like, whoa, okay, really? That's very interesting. And for me, that is that I'm very curious. And I think that that's helped me develop my intuition exponentially, because since I was a kid, I've always asked a lot of questions, and it's coming from a genuine place. I'm like, well, why this or why that? And what would be possible if we did that? Yeah. So living with that curiosity is going to serve you. And then I think having a daily practice is important. And one of the things I am very, very excited about and passionate about is making these tools to develop intuition available to anybody, no matter what their faith or belief system is. So you could be religious or not, and you can still benefit from the daily practice of some sort. You don't have to do it in the morning. You could do it at midday. You could do it in the evening. Having some form of practice that is turning down the dial on your physical senses and allowing you to turn up the dial, or the volume, if you like, on your subtle senses. And for me, and I know that you are the same, right? We have our quiet practices like meditation, and that's our time where we close down our eyes and we're turning down the external stimulus and we're creating a space. And that space is not just a space for visual perceiving of information or getting these profound downloads. Sometimes that space is grappling with your own shit. It's like being with your own monkey mind and this incessant thinking. And that's the part of the spiritual practice that I think a lot of people get sort of stuck on and go, this isn't working for me, or I'd rather do this other thing that makes me feel good instantly. But creating that space to be with what is essential to strengthen those subtle senses. And just like building your skill, let's say in art, right? Like when someone first draws a picture of an animal, like let's say a bear, and they're drawing the bear, it's going to be a really basic sketch that first time. And then if you do that sketch 1,000 times, your ability to hold a steady line and get those angles correct and bring in the shading is going to develop and develop. And it's the same with connecting with your subtle senses. Your brain is being rewired every time you create space to listen and perceive with all of these senses. And it gets more nuanced. And you start to unlock different levels of awareness, and you have more patience. And then within that, it creates, I think of it like a vacuum. So you get more skilled at creating the space, holding that container. And you may have times where you're wrestling with yourself and you're like, I can't focus. I'm thinking about what I'm going to have for breakfast. I'm wondering why this person said that. I'm hearing this bird chirping outside and this siren. But then you swing and it's like the pendulum swing, and you go, okay, wait, I'm in my practice. And you bring yourself back again and again. And by doing that, there will, I guarantee it, be these moments that affirm to you, like an opening, like boom, okay, something just came through that was not of my familiar reality. I just created a true space where that vacuum brought something in for me that I wouldn't have had if I didn't sit and allow in receptivity.
Yeah, that's super powerful. I love that. And that's something that I've been practicing a long time, because I couldn't sit with myself at the start. It took me 5 minutes, like max. And then I was like, I'm like, you couldn't do it. And then that would get longer and longer. But sometimes I still will sit and it'll be like monkey mind like crazy. The entire sit was monkey mind. And then I'm like, okay, just to tap into where you're at today. But that won't be every day. And it will shift, it will change. It's always shifting and changing, and it will go back to monkey mind or just not feeling great. But at time on the clock shifts your ability to practice. I like how you always see the world, because you always give me this like these like really specific compliments, or like the things you see are always like a little bit different in the room, and I love that. And so I love that curiosity about you. That really like rang true for me when you said that. And I'm like, you're always noticing things that are like outside of the box a bit. So I like love that.
Oh,
It's just how you are. I just love that.
yeah.
I have like a bit of a tell when something is, my intuition pings and I feel like on my skin, like I feel a tingle.
Nice.
So that's
Yeah.
my tell. What are different tells that are common, or how can people start to understand how their intuition in action will ring or will buzz or will whatever when it's their notification?
Yeah, I love that. Well, there's different levels of information incoming, if you like. I think a really good place to start is what does a yes feel like for you, and what does a no feel like? And this is something that the listeners could do right now, is just take a moment, and maybe we do it together.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's close down our eyes. Let's just take a few slow breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as we're breathing, we can just focus a little bit of our intention on clearing the agendas and expectations, just allowing whatever is true to be. One more deep breath. With your eyes closed, let's just play here and imagine that someone approached you and they're inviting you into an opportunity that is like a dream. It's such a full yes for you that you are blown away and you're like, whoa, yes. Paying attention to your inner experience. Maybe there's sensation, or it might be a knowing, or it could be a thought, or even a vision. How do you perceive the yes when you're being invited into this opportunity and they're saying, do you want to do it? What do you notice? Okay, I'm just logging whatever comes up in your awareness. And now we're going to clear our palate, release that. Let's take 3 breaths again. We'll breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Two more. One more, bringing yourself to neutral. All right. And now, again, eyes still closed, we're going to imagine that someone approaches you and they're asking you a favor, but it's like a real nuisance. And in fact, it's an inappropriate ask. It's not a good idea. It's feeling like a big burden, and like you are not the person for the job. And they're saying, can you do this for me? And just notice what you notice internally. Again, there could be thoughts. There could be a vision of something happening, a response, or an outcome. Or a sensation or a knowing. So when they ask you, can you help me out and do this? And in fact, maybe they're a bit rude about it. Maybe they're like, I need you to do this. And you're like, no. How do you respond internally first? Right, taking note. And then let's bring ourselves back to neutral once again. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale. Inhale. Bringing yourself back to clear, neutral. One more deep breath. Fully in the present moment. And blinking open your eyes. What did you notice?
Wow. Okay. So in the positive, I noticed like white lights in third eye and crown. And so I noticed I'd start seeing and feeling lights. And that was like I was visualizing the positive things happening.
Yep.
And it was like, well, we're here in LA and all these like wildly amazing connections happening. It was a yes in that form.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed like an expansive, imaginative energy. That.
Yep.
And then the no, I felt like a contractive feeling in the pit of my stomach.
Yep.
And it was like and I wanted to be like a small ball. And I noticed that.
Okay. So those little bits of feedback that you shared there are really important. And we can have an experience like this and we can be like, okay, well, that was cool. That was interesting. And then we can forget, right? It's in one ear and out the other. So I want everyone who's listening to like underline, save, take a snapshot in your awareness right now to notice how it came through for you. And then next time you need to make a decision and you want to tune into your intuition, pay attention to it again. And then you do it again. And you'll start to notice that there are stronger, subtle senses for you. And every one of us has different ones. So sometimes people will tell me, oh, when I do a meditation or I tune in and I'm trying to get some intuitive impressions on a situation, I don't see things like I hear psychic people say that they do. And that's my moment where I will always remind someone that your intuition speaks to you in many different ways. And some of the most powerfully dialed in intuitive people that I know never see visions. They will feel a deep feeling in their body, like a sensation, or there will be a knowing there. So really stay open to that. And then when it comes through, for example, when you see that vision, pay attention and trust that. And it might be a really helpful practice to even journal and write down what you saw so that you can begin to, again, develop that and get more into the details. And so with what you were describing there about seeing it and you start to see what's possible and the experiences that you have, that's your subtle sense of vision. And it's also known as clairvoyance. When you hear thoughts or sounds, some people will describe it as literally hearing someone in the room speaking to them, or it will come through as thoughts. And you're like, I can't really tell if this is me just thinking about it or if this is something deeper. And I'm clairaudient. And so I'll often hear a stream of consciousness coming through. And how I know is that there is a different flavor and tone and directness when my intuition comes through. Usually I find when I'm thinking about something, I can kind of run in circles and be like, oh, shall I do this and shall I do that? And when my intuition comes, it's just like, no, this is the truth. Kaboom. And that's what I try to pay attention to and write down and then take action on in my life. Another example of this is sometimes people will be like, I really want to do healing work and I want to develop myself, but I don't really know how I'm meant to do that because when I see, let's say they're comparing themselves to me, right? We compare.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, you seem to just get these really clear visual impressions and you deliver people messages and why can't I do that? But then I'll notice through exploration of their subtle sense strengths that when they put their hands on someone, they're like, oh, I just need to go here. And suddenly they're generating so much heat in their hands that they're sweating. And the person's like, oh, wow, I feel so much better. It's like, okay, there, pay attention to that. You have energy streaming through your system, and it's going to find the outlet that is most available and developed to send that energy. And then over time, it can change and shift. And there could be multiple.
Okay, so there's many different ways your intuition will custom let you know and communicate.
Yep.
Yeah, the hearing different thoughts would freak me out. They're like, who's that?
Right. And there's some stigma around that. And I've grappled with that myself heavily over the years and been like, I can't tell people I'm hearing voices. They're going to think that I'm crazy. But through my own journey, and I think this is also a part of being like a voice for others who are sensitive and developing spiritual gifts, is to go, okay, there is a very constructive purpose when this information comes through for me. I'm not like running around hearing voices and being like, la, 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 like it's purposeful, It's helpful. Okay, if it works for you, if it's serving you, there might be something to that. And I think again that this is something I think about a lot, and we've been talking about over the last few days, that our Western society has maybe gone a bit too far or a lot too far into identification with the logical lines, and Native cultures, Indigenous people are so much more connected into the language of energy.
Yeah.
And allowing these impressions to come through. And so what might seem really crazy and out there in the box of what we've been conditioned to in a Native culture is extremely normal.
I love that. Like, and in many cultures that are actually like, hey, this is real and it's here to help us.
Yeah.
They're guides. And that's something that has been deepening in my practice. Of course, in the Indian culture, there's siddhis and these are powers. Your yogic powers are here for you. And we all have access to them. Doesn't matter where you're born, there are spiritual powers because we are spiritual beings.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that we connect to ourselves and our intuition and our practice, those mornings that we just get some time to ourselves or just go off into the quiet and just be alone for a second, we're able to start developing our ability to manipulate energy. And I mean manipulation in a positive way, not like a manipulative person, like being bad, like in the sense that like, hey, we can start to then want something in a positive light, in intuition, and intuit it, but also then pull it in. And I love that because then I work a lot in intuition. I'll just shoot from the hip on things. Like I don't prepare for any of my podcasts or even my coaching client calls or anything. Really, I just listen, and then something comes through, and I'm like, listen. When we went to the aura healer in aura reader
in Sedona,
that was dope. Right. And so she didn't prepare for anything and she just taps into you and she's like, well, you're this, and this. And she even mentioned, I work in intuition and I'll be on stage and I don't prepare really and things just come through. And I'm like, I know, like, I love that.
Yeah. And you know why you know that and why you love that is because you gave it a chance.
Yes.
And most people will start to have that information coming through where they're like, I don't know how I know, but I know.
Yes.
And then they'll censor themselves and block it from actually being expressed, which is preventing them from being able to see the fruits of that and the benefit in it, right?
This is what I love about now, and I think a lot of people listening are open to their spiritual powers because we can nurture them, and what we nurture, you keep drawing that bear, it'll look less like a dog and start looking more like a bear. That's personal experience. My bears suck. But the more I started drawing, if I did, it would start developing. Yeah, it's cubist. But I can actually then start developing, like my intuition started coming through stronger and stronger. And it came firstly out of necessity because I needed to read people quickly in the dope game. And I needed to know, like, can I trust you? Are you a cop? Are you going to rob me? And it was like really out of necessity. And I think a lot of us develop these protection mechanism powers to not be hurt or in danger, of course, like you mentioned. And then now, if we open with an altruistic heart, like I want to help the world, like healers, and we can come into it like I just want to be a positive person. And I think of that in the morning meditations. I just want to serve today. I just want my day to be filled with love, and everybody who interacts with me, I want them to be happy and that they're like, oh, Aaron came, it was dope. Like I like that feeling, it makes me happy. And so I meditate on that in the mornings, and then I feel like I pull in positive interactions all day. And I'm like, okay, it's starting to come this way. Like that Synchro Destiny Deepak Chopra tip, it starts coming in. And that comes with sitting within myself and then developing these. And there's a part of it that in our culture now, it's more and more acceptable to be tapped into your spiritual side. And so I really like that it's getting more mainstream to develop this in you, because we all have the powers. Many gurus I studied under are like, all of us have these powers. It's just, do you listen to them? Do you give them a chance? Do you not judge it? And are you using them for good? Because it ain't going to help you win the lottery. You're trying to push it to win the lottery. It ain't going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Use it for good. I mean, there is, negative aspects that people can do. Don't go on the dark side of the force.
Yeah.
Stay on the light side of the force here.
It's very easy to do as well. I mean, something that I've contemplated a lot over the last decade, I suppose, is the ethics of developing these practices. And it can be sneaky, because we all have parts of ourselves that want to be loved and recognized and safe. And we have that primitive tribal component to our very makeup as human beings. And with that comes hierarchy and competition. And developing these skills can make us special, or be able to wield or influence reality in a certain way. And we can justify all kinds of things in our minds, right? We can be like, oh no, I'm doing it for the greater good. So I think a really important part of any spiritual practice, like you're saying, is to practice radical honesty about your intentions and know that it is there to benefit you. The funny thing is that we can be driven from selfish agendas and think like, oh, it's not so bad. Like I want to get this thing and I'm going to do it. And be afraid to let go of that selfish aspect, because, oh, well, what will I do then? Like, will my life just be all about service? And will I lose the opportunity to be whatever our minds create? But the funny thing is that the more that you open yourself up to truth, the more happy you are. The less you're going to chase these shiny objects that lead to misery and emptiness, which I've seen so many times where people are like, oh, I've been manifesting all of these things and now I'm wealthy. Now I have everything that I thought I wanted. Why do I feel like there's this huge void in my life, like something is missing? And I believe that is because without service and some kind of, like you again speak about a lot, the altruistic component to being a conduit of higher intelligence in your life, it will lead to a dead end. It's not any of our highest expression if we're going to be tapping into more energy than is needed for self. So the radical honesty piece allows us to be in right relationship with nature, right relationship with our human family, and it leads to the most fulfillment possible. We can trick ourselves, right, and be like, oh no, like I'm doing it for me. But again, the way that you feel will reveal it all. So why not just skip that and get into radical honesty and find the place within you where you can open up that vacuum and lead from service, knowing it's a win-win-win. You will win, God, source, the universe wins, and other people win.
I really love that. And I've definitely become much happier when I switched to the service element. I just feel better about myself. I had shitty confidence when I left the dope game, and I'm like, I'm a fucking loser. Like, I failed at city life. I wanted to be king of the jungle. I wanted all this shit. I got a bunch of shit. Shit didn't make me happy. I felt bad. I did lots of drugs because I felt bad. And then when I stopped doing those things, and I was like, now who am I? What do I do? So I was like, go be a good guy. Like, try that one on, because you didn't do that. I was always like a nice drug dealer. But I was like, I was like always like trying to be a good guy, but not really in this. It was like this sticky energy around it. And so when I started, like, okay, just try to do one act of random kindness a day. when start developing your yogic practice, live a yogic life. And we started going into that. And then the power started coming. And I was like, cool. I feel like I'm manifesting. If I think about someone, they'll call me. If I think about someone, they'll message me. If I'm tapping in and sending love to someone, I feel like they're thinking of me. And I was like, and I think a lot of people can relate to that like they had those like coincidences. But that's actually coincidence. It's a mathematical term. 2 points intersecting at the same point. Not a coincidence. That's actually coincidence that meant to happen. And you can create those things by putting intention into, what you want. But it only works when it's a positive high vibration. Because when I'm like on some like loser shit and I'm just like, yo, I want to be a baller. And like having nice shit's not bad. I still like nice shit. But if you're in a space where it's like, I want to sharpen my abilities to serve. And I remember meditating at this temple in my hometown recently, and then Lucas is like, yo, you want to come to Fit for Service? And I got to connect with you guys again and like go to Sedona and meet Aubrey and all you guys. I was like, this is great. It really works.
Yeah.
So if we're able to align our energies to something bigger than us and they're positive, I find it really awakens my intuition, but also my manifestation powers. And that's been cool because I've been playing with it in a sense of, okay, then tap into a like creation energy. And I picture like this cosmic gold swirl around me. And I love gold, obviously, very, Yeah, and you're on that tip. And so it was just like, I picture this gold and I'd be sitting in this like gold vacuum. And it was that energy of like creation connection. My heart would swell and I would feel this like, and so my powers, I feel like come like from my heart. And that's like a big, deep energy for me when I'm like, if I'm living from here, I'm happier. I'm just happier as a person rather when I'm living from like this, like the kind of energy.
Yeah.
That heart-centered energy, I feel like, is where a lot of this comes from. It's like a power center, like a Care Bear,
I love that.
Did you have Care Bears? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I love Care Bears.
Yeah.
And I love the memes with all of the Care Bears in a line, like they're beaming heart power.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel you on that. And I think that's one way that people could connect. And this could be a really great inspiration to go, okay, I could connect into my heart energy and I could visualize that field of light and feel into the golden vacuum. And then there are other ways as well that you can do it. And for me, often it's perceiving that I'm allowing a kind of clearing to take place in my mental space and allowing for my not knowing to be. And then in the not knowing, answers and clarity start to emerge. And I find that, speaking of manifestation power, a lot of manifestation teachers will describe, doing mental rehearsals and deciding what you want, focusing on that vision and repeating it again and again and again, and then it happens. And that is a very valid way to manifest, and there's nothing against that. I love that way, and I do practice that way, but there is another way, and this is what I practice more frequently, and that is allowing your life to be an unfolding devotion to whatever is of the highest good. And knowing that you don't need to know for your life to be on purpose. You don't need to be specific in the laser point of where you're actually going in order to be powerfully manifesting a purposeful life. And so what you were describing there about being in the temple and you're in that heart field, I don't know, you tell me, were you visualizing Lucas contacting you and having Fit for Service?
No.
Exactly,
it was
right?
Literally, I tapped into the energy of Guru Nanak, who's the first guru in the Sikh faith, and he was like the original Bhakti yogi, like the OG of Bhakti, like devotion. And so he's like the older Baba looking, like you just see him and he's like kind of like the Sikh Santa Claus vibes, and he's just like, he's pure love. And I tapped into that energy, and that energy went into me, and I felt like a full body tingle.
Yeah.
And that was around the Sikh faith is about seva, and that's like selfless giving. And I tapped into that, and that made my heart swell. And I started kind of like rocking, and I was like, that's the tip. That right there is very important to me. Okay, I'm feeling into that, and that was like juicy. I'm meant to serve, I'm meant to give. And then I asked, like a prayer, please let me serve deeper. and I just want to serve at a bigger level. And that was all that it was. And then I felt like this like a tingle.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it now. And it was like, okay, that felt good. And I just sat in that and I was like, for a little while. And then when I got back to my car, Lucas messaged.
There you go.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And you didn't have to plan that. You didn't have to control how that was going to manifest. You could focus on the feeling and the intention and then allow God, source, the universe, to respond with the most aligned and appropriate and expansive opportunity. And there it was. And so when we're living from intuition, we don't need to know what the next best thing is until the moment where we need to know.
Yeah.
And so people will often get caught up and describe to me, I've got this impression that I should do this thing, but I don't know why.
Mm.
And I don't know where it's going, and I don't know if it's going to work out. And this is a test of faith, to live in a way where you feel it, you acknowledge that it is coming from that intuitive language that you have access to, and you do something about it, and then you wait and see what happens, and then you return to your practice every single day, and you allow the next impression to come, and then you act upon that, and you marry aligned action. That's your role, right? None of us are just going to like sit here and like have your breath and just show up without any effort. But when you're able to take aligned action based on what you're given, you're in a state of greater presence and in the mystery of life. And then you show up again to your practice and you get the next piece, and then you take aligned action on that. And what I found after doing this for many, many years is this is the most fun and juicy way to live. When you watch a movie, no one wants to enter into a movie and be like, oh, by the way, before you go into the theater, here's what happens and here's the ending. It's like, can you not ruin it for me?
Yeah.
So life is the same way. We get to be in the mystery, and you get given exactly the right amount that you need. No more, no less.
No spoiler alerts.
Yeah, exactly. But you can expand and have a far more creative life if you're willing to act upon something that you may not be fully familiar with, but you've received, than you would if you were just living based on like your familiar, certain known reality, which is what a lot of people do.
So I love this. And so acting in the mystery, being appreciative of the mystery, like, okay, life has given me this. So say a new circumstance has presented itself in your life. You meet somebody or an opportunity. How do you sit with it? What's your practice then to like kind of mull it over, suss it out, as they would say in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, suss it.
Suss it.
I've heard that that's actually kind of not an appropriate thing to say in some
Why?
cultures, or like it means something else. But in
Really?
to me, sussing it out is like assessing.
Yeah, assess it. That's where I got it from. I only heard that.
To me, they're like, sussing means something else.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Because with Kiwis and Aussies, that's where I got it from. Like look sus, like suspect.
I think that's what people
really
take it as.
Like suspicious,
sussy.
Sus. But then that doesn't seem like inappropriate to me.
No.
And then like, let's suss it out, like to assess it. And I'm like, I love that term.
Yeah.
Like, let's suss it out together.
That's what we're about.
Yeah. Okay.
So how do I suss out my plans?
Yeah.
For me, I have a daily practice. Every single day I pretty much wake up and I love my cacao. I love to make a cacao. And usually Lucas and I will sit and we'll drink our cacao, and then we'll do what we call a tune-in. And usually I will close my eyes. And this is a way that I personally find helps me to, again, like I was describing, turn down the external stimulus. You don't have to get your tune-in done, but for me that really helps. And then I might have a question for the day, and I will maybe ask Lucas, like, do you have a question that you want to explore, or is there any particular intention that you have for today that we could tune into? And then that is that opening of space to feel, listen, see, explore, allow sensations to arise. And then usually we'll talk through it. And this is the cool thing about having, like, for me, I have a partner who's open-minded, and we get into our little intuitive explorations together, and that's fun. But when I'm by myself, I would do the same thing, but with a journal. So just writing down any questions that I have, or anything that's coming through. And typically what I'll do is like write what I'm sensing, and then I'll stop, and then I'll go in again, and I'll feel, and I'll explore. And this is important because it requires patience. And if you're in a hurry, you may miss something very important. And for a long time, I judged that within myself, where I'd be like, why can't I just get it now? Why do I have to slow down and I get a little bit, and then I have to stop again and write it, and then do another tune in, and it's coming in these little fragmented pieces. And then I'm seeing a vision. I'm like, what is the context of that? Patience is so incredibly important. And sometimes when impressions come through, they're coming through different channels simultaneously. So for example, I might see the face of a person in my mind's eye, and then I might get a feeling, and then I might, write that down or talk that through with Lucas, and then I'll sit with it for a moment, and then it will bring up a question. Okay, what's the connection between what I'm seeing here and all of the other little bits that seem random right now? And it starts to thread together like a story, or you could call it a formula in a way. And then it starts to make sense. I've been writing, as you know, I've been writing a book for the last year or so.
I can't wait.
I'm so excited and, keen to share more about it. One of the key messages within the book is the importance of being able to develop the skill of pattern recognition. And that means being able to make connections between seemingly irrelevant or disconnected points of data, right? So this is how synchronicity manifests in our physical reality, where we're like, I saw that number, or I saw that butterfly, and I connect that in my awareness to this person or this situation or this idea. As we expand our ability to identify more elaborate patterns, or patterns that are beyond the confines of what we've been conditioned or raised to believe and see and expect, we open up to create in a far more expansive way. And so I love that, like signs. That is another way that you can actually interact with your external reality to live a more intuitive life. It doesn't all just have to go on in here. You can ask for signs to appear. You can ask to be told messages.
I like this one, like the signs, because the universe is communicating with us. Like, I believe this.
Exactly.
I believe the universe is in constant communication with you in negative and positive ways. Like, it will hit me, it'll slap me and it'll tell me the right way to go. Or if I'm in alignment, I notice I get like divine synchronicities, like awesome shit's always happening to me, and I appreciate it deeply when I'm in a service mindset. If I'm in a high vibration, the universe is like guiding me, and then I'll see the angel numbers. It'll always be that time on the phone. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. But then if I'm in a negative mindset, I'm like, it's going to be 11:11 fucking twice a day anyways, guys. God damn it. Like there's like always like sometimes like how far is it? Where it's like not everything is a sign from the universe. Like that bugs me sometimes. But then when I'm in an elevated space, I can't help but notice all these divine things where like, of course I would make this link that would link me to that thing that would make me meet this person. That would like, it happens quite a bit that it's too much to ignore. But I also notice when I'm in a space of appreciating the universe giving me these signs, I'm happier. And I feel like I think it's a beautiful way to live. Because then the universe is friendly and there for you and giving you messages, and the world is not out to get you. And the universe is a benevolent space to live. It wants you to be happy. It wants you to love. It wants you to serve. It wants you to connect. So if you live in that space, you're living in a very friendly atmosphere. That's a better place to live.
And, science confirms what I'm describing. We know that we have a reticular activating system that is continually seeking out confirmation of what we believe. And if we live our lives with the expectation that we live in a positive, friendly, benevolent universe that is always caring for us and supporting us, and whatever is happening for the highest good, then we're going to identify patterns that confirm that narrative. And I really encourage everyone to do that, and also, to be honest with yourself about it, rather than trying to kind of rig or control the system and be like, is it 11 yet?
Yeah. Waiting for 11:11.
What we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But being in that authentic flow.
Yeah.
And ultimately it comes back to what I said at the beginning, which is being open-minded, living in that beginner's mindset, which is what kids do. Kids are so intuitive. It's because they're open to infinite possibilities. They don't have that narrowing that's defining what they think is possible.
Mm-hmm. I love this. I like this pattern recognition element as well, because that's been important with me. And I feel like I attract in similar types of characters in different time, like different stages of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, you're that version of that person. And like that kind of trips me out sometimes, where I'm like, it's another one of you types. Obviously we're all different. Everyone's unique, but I can notice, then I can recognize different types of people and then how to act around those types of people. So it's important for me to catalog patterns in my life and attributes and archetypes. I guess archetypes is the biggest one that we talked about with Sahara Rose the other day. Was we all have different archetypes in us and we play them out. And through those, then we can kind of understand how the universe will work through people. And then we can use our intuition in, is this the right situation for me to be in with that type of person?
Mm-hmm.
How do you read people? And I can't remember where it was, but I heard that we know whether we like someone or whether we'd want to mate with them, or, in different ways, trust them,
Mm-hmm.
Within 8 seconds of being in the room with someone. What's that like for you as someone who's highly intuitive, in my opinion?
Yeah. Okay. I love what you're saying. It's so on point. And one of the arguments that I am anticipating in my awareness right now is that what people describe as intuition could be kind of argued that it's actually someone developing their ability to recognize patterns, and that it's not intuition at all.
Okay.
It's another form of just gathering information from external and internal life and then piecing it together. And that is a part of how we develop our ability to read people. The nuance that I want to point out here is that you have a map of so much information within your brain and body, right? It's like a huge map of the terrain of life and all of these different data points of like, is this person like that? And or are they like that? And are they going to do this next? Or are they going to do this next? It's all just a vast field of information. So why do you go where you go? Is it because of what you've experienced in the past? Or is it because you've cleared agendas and you've opened yourself up to allow some subtle sense that goes beyond your logic to guide you to that conclusion? The image again that I'm getting here is like a Ouija board, right?
Yeah.
So you create a map. In this case, it would be the board. You create a practice of allowing some sort of energy or guidance to influence where you are moving your hand on that board. So when you ask a question, you could say that that is not you, that it's creating those conclusions, but you are creating the space for that to happen.
Creating the container for intuition to come in and call the shots.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So the reason that I want to bring this up is because I really think it's important for people to appreciate their own logic and gather information and learn. And sometimes I think when we're speaking about developing intuition, people can kind of go too far in one direction and be like, okay, I'm just going to live guided by inspiration in the moment, and I don't need to read books anymore. I don't need to learn. Like, it's all just going to come through from God, source, the universe. There's such benefit in building out a larger board of information, learning, recognizing, okay, when someone treats me like that, I should do this. Noted, putting that on my board of information. And then you also consult with your intuition to go, is that the highest choice for me right now? And sometimes you're going to get a no when your conditioning would be like, absolutely, yes. This is kind of like my long-winded way of saying
I love this.
that you can absolutely read people based on your conditioning, but you might be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes when people get a strong feeling or an image about something, it's coming from a survival signal and a stress response, not intuition. For example, if you meet someone and you're like, oh, I just got a really bad feeling. Is that because you cleared your expectations and agendas and you tuned in and you're like, this person is not someone that I should be connecting with at all? Like, it's not in my highest alignment. Or is it because on some level they remind you of someone from your past, or you feel insecure when you're around them, or you're afraid that they're like going to compete with you, or whatever it may be? There could be infinite things. That's where you've got to get really honest with yourself and kind of peel back more and more of the layers of conditioning to get a clear read. So developing the ability to accurately discern from intuition is going to require inner work and unlearning as much as it is also learning and then getting out of the way and being like, okay, I know what I know, now show me where to go.
Yeah, I really like that. Well, I like the sense of build your map, like recognize patterns, catalog all that you've been through, and take the information out of it that was a fact and not your projection on things.
Yeah.
And then catalog that. But then when you get into a space, clear your who would you say, your discriminatory rather than discernment, you're discriminating.
Yeah.
Clear that so you can just discern based off of facts and catalogs of what you've been through, and then get into a space of allowing you set the container for intuition. Now let intuition and the universe guide you next.
Yeah.
That's sort of it.
Exactly. So this is also why sometimes very, very skilled intuitive people can't get a clear read on certain situations. For example, I find it very difficult to do a reading, if you like, on situations where I'm personally invested in the outcome.
Yeah.
Let's say there's a financial risk involved, or someone would get really hurt if there was a certain outcome and I'm worried about them. I'm not even going to try to tune into that a lot of the time because I know that my filters aren't clear.
Yeah.
So it's essential that before we try to tune into anything, we're doing that practice of checking in and being like, am I actually even in a position to be neutral so that I can allow a clear response?
Great. So that's like something for an external, for like, say if you're reading it from me, which you've done you've done like emergency psychic, emergency readings, emergency spiritual support, as we'd call it.
You're like, help me, I can't get a read on this, and I need an external perspective.
Yeah. And then for you, if someone walks into the room, how do you read that right away? What pings off for you, just out of curiosity?
I refer to all of my subtle senses. And again, I practice patience and I allow the data points to piece together. Sometimes there will just be a clear knowing for me that I have no reason to not want to be around someone whatsoever. Like, I'm so clear. I had this the other day. Someone wanted to connect with me through a friend. They were like, let's introduce you. And I saw the photo of the person and it was an immediate no.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I could there's a choice point, right? I could go, oh, there's no reason to feel that way. Just, that's probably you making something up. Like, give them a chance. But I've learned to trust that if there's no logical reason, but it's still very strongly there, then I should pay attention to it. And I don't need to over-explain myself. So that's one example. But it's also, again, using all of the data points that you have. For example, noticing certain things that stand out to you about someone's, maybe it's their body language, maybe it's the eye contact, maybe it's feeling, this has happened to me many times, where you feel like you're not gelling or connecting with someone and you don't know why, or they don't really see you. And you're like, we're not really, I'm trying to have a connection here, but it feels like this person doesn't even see me.
Yep.
And in those moments, you're like, I don't know why, but this is not flowing.
Yeah.
So again, up to you to trust that.
I used to fight that because I'd find I'd meet people and right away we're like, we don't love each other. And most of the time.
Yeah.
And then I have people where we just slide off each other. And there's people we don't like each other.
Yeah.
So I've kind of like categorized that in my head where like, okay, we're meant to be homies. And then there's like, we just slide right off each other. There's just like no connection there. And I don't take it really personally anymore because I know that's just a part of the universe where they're going to just get to mute with somebody else.
Yeah.
But with me, we just slide off. And that's okay. Like, I'm like, actually, I don't take it personally.
Which is huge that you're there.
Yeah.
Pay attention, people.
Yeah. It's for the better. Because if you just slide off someone, don't force it. It's totally cool. We just don't energetically click. There's no good or bad.
Yeah.
We just aren't puzzle pieces that fit. Good. Because I can fit with other people. It's okay. And then there's people that it's like there's a tension and there's like something there where we just don't like each other. And that gets me curious.
That's good.
Yeah. Because I'm like, what is that? Why do I just want to smash them in the face? Repeat. I'm just kidding.
But maybe not.
Yeah, sometimes. Where's a rock? But like, but like it happens sometimes, and I just don't know why. And that happens. But I have it with people where I meet them and I just love them right away.
Yeah.
Or I have it with people right away where I meet them and I'm just like, something about them I don't like, and I just keep distance, but I keep it in a space of like kind, but often there's something behind that universally that I learn.
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes even deeper connection when we like sort it. There was something there for me. That's an interesting space, but I try not to be so judgy anymore and just in a space of like open acceptance or curiosity, which you mentioned. And I really like that aspect of it, of just being curious of like, what's there for me? What information is here? Or what part of them do I not like about me? And that's a common one. Do they talk too much? Are they the loud ones in the room? Do they own the conversation and dominate it too much? You know, like, are they trying to be a tough guy? Are they just looking for validation? Is it too cheesy? All the shadow aspects of me that I've had to like unearth and work on.
Yeah.
That's actually been really interesting because now I'm believing that the universe is showing you parts of yourself that you need to work on your journey of consciousness. And it's like, oh, you don't like that, huh? That's you. And I've had that, like I went to a retreat a few months ago, actually where I met Will, our cameraman. And there was one guy in that retreat I just didn't like. And when he said things, and everyone was like amazing there. And now we're cool. But I just noticed the first couple of days, I was specifically just like, fuck that guy. Like in my head, obviously, I was like being super nice to him. But like,
hey man.
Yeah, hey buddy. Yeah, but like I didn't want to partner with him. We had like partner exercise. I didn't want to be in his group. Like I just didn't want anything to deal with this guy. There was something about him that rubbed me the wrong way. And I just believed in my heart that he was like a selfish guy that just wanted to take.
Okay.
And in this group of all of us meeting each other and we're all supposed to be leaders, you give. And you're just meant to be giving for everyone. And that was like the important aspect. And I just felt like he just wanted to take. And that bugged me. And that started irking me around it. And then I had to come around full circle near the end of it. And I realized like what he had been through in his life, or like where his story was at. And he felt insecure and less than being around all these other big leaders. And that he was just like operating in his way because I felt he was being super cocky, but actually he was actually very insecure. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was allowed me to be more compassionate towards him. And then we were cool. And actually we were like really like kind of gelled near the end. I still wasn't like wanting to kick it. Like I wasn't trying to like hang out after, but like
you had a different understanding.
Yeah.
I want to highlight something there, which is really important. And it's what we make everything mean.
Yeah.
And that is the pattern recognition aspect that you get to develop, which liberates you from so much suffering. Because in that moment, his behavior, your brain and body was recognizing a pattern and making it mean that he was a type of way.
Yeah.
And that meaning evolved and you started to gather different data points, maybe based on what he said, how he was relating to people and opening up, that allowed you to recognize him in a new light, which allowed you to then transmute how you felt about him.
Yeah.
And so a really important part of how we relate to people and read anyone that we meet is inquiring, and we're not going to do this every time we meet someone, but if you need to, check in on the set of lenses that you are entering into that interaction with. And you spoke about how at that retreat it was about being of service. When you enter into a space with the mentality that you are there to be of service, you're going to see everyone in a completely different way, and you're going to create connections in your mind with different pieces of information in a completely different configuration to how you would if you were there for a self-serving reason.
Yeah.
So in that okay, I'm here at this retreat, I'm here to grow, I'm here to level up. This guy's a pain in the ass. He needs to stay away from me because he's not a part of my vibe, my level up, my having a good time. But if you enter into that experience with, okay, I'm here to serve. Interesting, this guy's coming across in this type of way. I wonder what that's about. I wonder how I might be able to help him, or what is going to transpire in this space.
Yeah.
And being in that curiosity, things are going to start to click.
Yeah.
So something that I've just noticed that's super on point with what you're saying is one of the most fun and light and freeing ways to be is to enter into any social situation in that service mentality. Like, anytime you go into a story of, this is a waste of time, I don't think these people are my people, why am I here, whatever.
How do I get out of here?
Yeah, try change the set of lenses that you have on to service and see how that shifts things for you. It's going to change how you express yourself. But you could also try another way, and you could be like, what if this is an opportunity for me to practice taking up space, and try that set of lenses on? Or what if there's someone here who really needs me to just zip it and allow them to take the floor? So,
I really love this because it almost gamifies the situation as well. And I had been practicing this as well because, as you know, when I came back to Vancouver, I was handicapped, just recently, and living at my parents' house for way too long. But it was a practice for me because I was back at my parents' house, which is a spiritual practice in itself. If you want to say Ram dusting, if you want to see how evolved you are, go live with your parents. Go meet your family. And I'm okay, I'm in their spare room with a fucking sewing machine in it. It's a spare room. It's there's a bed, but it's all my mom's storage stuff, All moms, I think, hoard a little bit. And there's just lots of stuff that didn't need to be there that she has holding on to, right? So I'm in this spare room on crutches, can barely get up and down the stairs. And, I'm going from living in a nice Bali villa to a spare bedroom in my parents' house, sharing a bathroom with my niece, my 12-year-old niece, right? And it was just okay, I told myself, instead of be I was going to make this a practice. And I'm I'm going to make this, I'm okay with anything. I'm okay with living in any circumstance. I'm going to be here and be love. And my whole goal for coming back to Vancouver was, I'm going to be love embodied. And I'm going to show my family that I just love them. And I can be in this situation and be loved and be loving, And that was okay, that's the practice. And so I saw my folks in that lens where I was okay, this is a highly triggering situation. My parents are Itchy and Scratchy from The Simpsons. They're just at it, married for a million years, Indian, almost arranged marriage. It's a lot.
There's some tension.
You get in the room and you're can you guys just stop not talk to each other like that? I actually had to set boundaries as soon as I walked in. Can you guys just not talk to each other like that? Because I'm sensitive. And it's sensitive to me. I just got off a long flight and can you guys just be a little nicer to each other? But obviously, I think everyone's parents can get into a little bit of how they speak to each other is just years of, resentments built on resentments. So anyways, my frame of this was, I'm not going to let that annoy me. I'm going to be here to make everyone's life better. I just want to be a source of love and positivity in every room I walk in and hobble in because I was on 2 crutches, right? And that made my time there way better. And I actually made it like 5 months or 4.5 months in this spare bedroom. Before I was
10 out of 10, Aaron.
right. I was like proud of myself before I was like, fuck this shit. I got to get out of here. I need my own place. I need a nice place. I got to live well. I just fucking can't do this anymore. Mom, I love you. Like, I just can't. And they're like, we get it. You did actually, they were like, you did pretty good. I mean, we're surprised you lasted this long also. But gamifying the situation and changing my lens on it to be from, hey, I'm your son and I need like an awesome place and blah, 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 just taking or whatever it was, to like, I'm going to come here and be grateful and love you guys. That lens change for me was very powerful. And I think it made me much happier.
Yeah.
Tolerant, accepting, loving, grateful. And as a result, I was happier. So I think this lens change practice is something everyone can take home to like, okay, if you're not liking a situation or it's not exactly what you want, swap the lens out and see if this lens makes the situation a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that service element, like that's beautiful. So that's nice. That's a practical step that I want to write down and keep that one. That's a good one.
There's a piece here too. I know that you've had your podcast episode with Sahara speaking into the topic of Dharma, which I encourage everyone to check out. When you understand, at least at some level, it might be a feeling, it might be a sort of higher prayer that you have to live a purposeful life, and you're like, okay, whatever is aligned with my Dharma, my purpose, let that be my frame. And in some moments that may look like tolerance and sticking it out and being like, okay, I'm here to bring love and contribute. And there's going to also be times where when you are aligning with your Dharma and your higher level of service, let's say, that it's going to look like making a choice that doesn't feel as loving or compassionate or patient in the moment. And I bring this up just because I know that there's a lot of people pleasers, and I know we've connected on this in the past, that when we're feeling like we always need to do the good thing for everyone else, I feel like people are going to be like, wait, what are you doing? You're like scrambling the conversation and we're meant to be of service. Isn't that what you were saying? Okay, so it's service at the highest level. That should be the guide to live in alignment with your Dharma. And sometimes that means setting boundaries and going, okay, take the example of, I have a friend who has been asking to have coffee for like a month. And I feel in my body that it's a no. And I could get into, okay, well, I should be of service, and why would I not do that? That's being like selfish and so on. But if I'm willing to pay attention to that feeling and align my frame with whatever is for my highest good in my Dharma, sometimes that's going to look like, I really need to conserve my energy right now. And this meeting is secondary to a much more important priority. I had that recently with a situation where I felt just incredibly guilty and a sense of regret about not being able to show up for someone in a situation where they were really in need. And I was like, did I mess that up? Have I done the wrong thing? And what I came into connection with is I am not useful when I am abandoning myself. That's not true or loving. And a part of being of service to people is also inviting them to really show up for themselves and not to perpetuate codependent dynamics. So that is probably like a whole other conversation, but I really felt like I needed to voice that.
Yeah.
That sometimes being in the like you described the retreat situation, sometimes the mind wants to go, okay, there's something to work out here and I need to transmute this trigger and work this out with the sky, and maybe we need to have a clearing conversation. But sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to go, I don't like this guy. we're not gelling, we're not compatible. God created him for a reason, and I trust that. But I'm going to go over here now.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And just like, I'm not angry whatsoever. There's no animosity in me. It's just like we slide off each other. We're just different.
Yeah.
And
so you consult your intuition on that.
Yeah. And that's like, don't hold on to it. Like, don't hold these like, that person, fuck that guy, or like whatever. It's like there's no need for that. That's only you feeling it. That person doesn't feel anything. Well, you can just be nice, but like I don't need to be if there's a house party here, we'd be on the other end of the party.
Yeah,
and that's okay. That's like totally okay. And then when we'd have to like share a car, I'd be like fuck, but then I just make the best of that. It's okay. I really like that aspect of it. I think we covered some really beautiful stuff in all this. Is there things that you'd like to drop people in with, help them in their intuitive journey, and things that maybe we'd miss out on that would be valuable for people to take away, knowing that they have these gifts and it's their joy, it's their honor, it's their actual privilege to use them.
Yeah. Well, I think an important part of my life and my work that we haven't touched on, we will in another episode, is breathwork.
Yeah.
And the role of non-ordinary states in expanding our perception. And so briefly, I'll just explain that a non-ordinary state of consciousness could be accessed through meditation, it could be through hypnosis, it could be through psychedelics, it could be through a moment of awe in nature. It could be at the birth of a child. There's so many ways that we can induce non-ordinary states of consciousness that essentially allow us to see life in a different way. And these states can help us to recognize patterns in a way that blasts apart everything that we thought we knew about something. And breathwork is one practice that can help you to access non-ordinary states of consciousness. And I know a lot of people go to therapy for years, and I'm absolutely pro-therapy. I think therapy is important. It's good to talk through things and make sense of what has unfolded in your life and your thoughts and feelings. But sometimes the frustration that people may have with therapy is that there is a lot of looping in the map of what you know that's kind of being done blindly, and you're like, I'm just looping in this conditioning and I don't really know how to get out of it. And we're talking about the same shit again and again and again. And when you go into a non-ordinary state of consciousness, instead of trying to solve your problems from the state of consciousness that actually is keeping them like existing and perpetuating, you're able to zoom out and connect those dots, right? Identify different patterns that were like your blind spots. And in that, you can rapidly transform the meaning that you make and the frame, if you like, of how you're relating to yourself and your life. So a big one is forgiveness. When we have resentment and grudges and deep pain with certain situations in our lives, that is one of like the most sticky programs that we can have in our, not just our mind, but in our physiology. We were like, this happened and now it means this, and I'm going to relate to not only like the situation itself and the people that were involved, but anything that resembles it, I'm going to adapt myself to respond in that way. Because now, instead of being able to flow in the stream of life like a river, I have to move around that, because that is no longer like open possibility for me. That is a defining fixture in my life timeline. So when we go into the non-ordinary state of consciousness, not only are we able to see that thing in the full continuum of our life and be like, oh, that's why that had to happen. I was so fixated on it being wrong and bad, but now that I see it from a different perspective, I get it and I'm able to let it go. It then also transforms how we behave, how we relate to things, and so on and so on. So that's just one example of the power of non-ordinary states of consciousness. And the other part of it too is that we can go beyond the confines of our physical world and start to explore our relationship to God, source, the universe, whatever we want to call it, as well as loved ones who have passed over. So if anyone is seeking a direct experience of what is spoken about in every ancient religious and spiritual text, I feel like you need to try breathwork at least once.
1,000 billion% agree. We were talking yesterday about like plant medicine journeys and, you know, how we're kind of at a place where we're like, yeah, cool, but it's not exactly, we got stuff to do. Like it's not part of my practice at the moment. I think everyone should try. Some people, not everyone. But breathwork is the way that you don't need to ingest anything that's a narcotic or a psychoactive, because you're going to go there and breath is free.
It's free and it's legal.
Yeah. You don't need to go to Peru or anything. Like it's just here for you and accessible. And I've had my biggest realizations and growth from breathwork as opposed to plant medicines. Like it's been big. That's been. I've had some catalyst moments from plant medicines, but I've had the deepest understandings and long-lasting realizations from breathwork, especially with you two. It's been massive. I've seen my guides, I've seen guardian angels, I've seen my purpose in life. It's just been so amazing because I'm coherent and I can understand it, and I feel like after I can journal and it's real, it's right there. Whereas I'm like in a plant medicine journey, I'm like, what did the owl tell me? I don't know. But this is a direct experience I think everyone should have, especially with Lucas and Helle. And if you're looking to become a breathwork facilitator, your trainings are amazing. They're changing people's lives, helping people serve the world. I think it's extremely important. We heal ourselves and then heal others. That's just the way to do it. That's just a beautiful way to live your life, because you can be of service because you've served yourself first and you make yourself whole. And all of those really sticky life events that ever traumatizing you that you feel ashamed for. Maybe you were an addict for years. Maybe you had a huge death in the family. Maybe you just did things that you felt fucked up for. This is a way for you to unpack it and then see it was part of your life's journey for you to then be of service. And having had that, your deepest trauma is your medicine to serve others once you overcome it. And then you have this massive depth of experience. It's just a great story to tell after. It's just your character arc. Nobody wants to learn from the teacher or the healer or, you know, that had the perfect sweet life the whole time. No, go through some shit and then get through it and then help other people get through some shit. It's a beautiful way to live. That is juicy for me.
It really is. Yeah. I'm all about it. I encourage everyone to come and experience it. We have a free practice, Awaken Daily, which you know.
Yeah.
You can find that on YouTube. Awaken, Owaken, and yeah, that's a good place to start.
We should put it in the show notes so everybody can just click and get to it. That's super powerful. You have a woman's offering that I'm really jealous of and would be like, I'd be considered like,
can I come?
Can I like to be a transvestite for a day or something? Does it work that way? I don't know. What's that about?
To be honest, I've never really declared it as women only.
Oh, okay.
But
great.
Just
my name's unisex.
It's just happened to be that way.
Okay.
But yeah, the mastermind that I have is called Intuitive Impact, and it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm so about helping people to work with their intuition to make a bigger impact in the world and live their lives with that frame of service and being in alignment with your Dharma, and then working with a higher intelligence to guide the way. Yeah. Let's innovate, fam. Like there's already so many people who have done epic things in the world, but there's infinitely more ready to come through. Yeah. And if we work with what is beyond what's been done and beyond what we've been programmed to know, we can get really, really creative.
I love this. Well, there's lots that's been done, but everyone is their own unique player in the world, and your unique experience and flavor is important in the universe and needs to be expressed at its fullest, and that will resonate with someone else. Because not everybody fucks with everybody, just like you've heard on my story. I think there's some people you just slide off of.
So true.
But there will be people with you uniquely that the world wants to hear from, that will resonate with. We all have those people that we magnetize towards. So bettering yourself, diving in deep, and then learning how to navigate this plane with skill is a benefit to the universe, and that is massive. So you are needed. Your gold is needed. You are needed, and what you have to give is needed. So go and develop yourself so you can serve it with the best possible expression of you.
Do it, fam.
That's what's up. Helle, thank you so much. You're one of the people I trust with my life and my soul, and that is one of my deepest friends, and I appreciate you so much. And I know what you share is just icing on the cake of this game we call life. Thank you so much for blessing us today with your presence.
More to come. No doubt about it. Love you.
Love you. Peace, homies.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ink Pray Love podcast. I hope you found it inspiring, entertaining, funny, and also feeling a little bit more present and connected to yourself. Please leave a review and like and subscribe and do all those things. I'd really appreciate that. As well as if you're feeling in a giving mood, this podcast is there for the charities that I love to support. Go to www.aaronbaya.com/charity and get some of those good karma points. This podcast is brought to you by Lighthouse Studios in Bali, as well as Full Reset Coaching. That is my coaching practice. And if you're looking for help in business, inner game impact, and building your legacy to be something you're proud of, your brand, your business, and how you walk the earth and who you impact, and also having the mindset and the heart set to be able to be happy handling it all, I'm here for you. Just DM me. Let's go. Peace out, homies. I'll see you on the next episode.